People vanish near Mount Shasta, and many are never found. Hikers step off trails and disappear in minutes. Campers leave tents and never return. Search teams comb miles of wilderness and find nothing. No footprints, no gear, no answers. Maps fail. Radios fall silent. Witnesses report strange gaps in time. Records show patterns no one can explain. How does this mountain erase people so completely, and why does it keep happening again and again? A quiet interval in the trees. Fowler's Campground lies along the Upper McCloud River in Northern California, within a managed section of forest east of Mount Shasta. The campground contains a loop road, spaced campsites, and short footpaths leading toward water access points. The surrounding land is a mix of dense pine stands, low shrubs, and uneven volcanic soil. Sound travels inconsistently through this terrain, and visibility drops sharply beyond the cleared areas. Visitors often move between campsites and nearby trails, without formal markers indicating direction. In early September 2011, a young family was staying at the campground for a short recreational trip. Their 3.5-year-old son remained close to their site during the afternoon. According to later statements, he had been playing within view of his father shortly before he vanished. No unusual activity was noticed in the area at that time. Other campers continued routine activities, such as preparing meals and walking toward the river. The father later described the disappearance as sudden. He stated that the child had been present one moment and absent the next. There were no reports of shouting, falling, or visible disturbance near the campsite. The ground surface showed no clear tracks. Leaves, pine needles, and compacted soil covered most of the surrounding area, limiting the visibility of footprints. The parents began searching nearby immediately. They walked short distances into the tree line, called out his name, and checked common paths. After several minutes without success, they contacted local authorities. Emergency dispatchers notified the county sheriff's office and regional search and rescue coordinators. Within approximately 1 hour, organized response units began arriving. Sheriff's deputies, volunteer rescuers, and canine handlers assembled at a temporary command point near the campground entrance. Search leaders divided the surrounding land into sectors based on terrain and probable travel routes. Teams were assigned to riverbanks, trails, and uphill slopes. As evening approached, daylight weakened beneath the forest canopy. Artificial light became necessary in shaded areas. Searchers moved at controlled speeds, pausing periodically to listen. Canine teams worked along likely scent paths, starting near the family's campsite. Communication between teams relied on handheld radios and scheduled check-ins. Temperatures remained moderate, but concern grew as darkness increased. A child of that age could become disoriented quickly and might remain hidden without responding to voices. Rescuers maintained steady patterns rather than expanding rapidly into distant terrain. Roughly 5 hours after the search began, a sheriff's deputy working with a trained dog detected movement and sound in a thicket not far from the main campground area. The deputy reported hearing a faint cry. Pushing through the brush, he found the child crouched inside a bush. The boy appeared tired and dirty, but showed no obvious injuries. The deputy carried him back toward the command area at a rapid pace. Medical personnel examined him briefly and found no immediate cause for hospitalization. He was reunited with his parents shortly afterward. By late evening, search operations were concluded and personnel were released. Local media reported the event as a successful recovery following a coordinated response. The child's name was withheld and no further investigation was announced. Authorities did not release detailed transcripts of interviews or medical assessments. Public records reflected only the time of disappearance, the duration of the search, and the location of recovery. In the weeks that followed, the family returned to routine life. No official follow-up statements appeared in local newspapers. The incident was treated as an example of effective emergency response in a forested recreation area. Several weeks later, during a visit to his grandmother's home, the child began referring to events from the day he went missing. His grandmother, Kathy, was known to him by the nickname Cappy. During conversation, he mentioned disliking the other Cappy. When asked for clarification, he said there was another person who looked like her. According to family recollections, the child said that while he was in the woods, someone resembling his grandmother appeared and took him away from where he had been. He described this figure as being different in texture and appearance. When asked what he meant, he used the word robot. He explained that a robot was something made of metal and controlled remotely. He then described being taken to a dark enclosed space that he called a cave. Inside, he said there were old personal items such as bags and purses, along with objects he identified as guns. He noted the presence of dirt, webs, and insects on these items. He spoke as though they had been undisturbed for a long time. He also mentioned seeing other figures in the same place. These figures, he said, resembled people, but did not move. He described their faces as unusual and their bodies as fixed in position. In his account, they remained silent and inactive throughout his time there. One detail he repeated involved light reflecting from the face of the person who had taken him. He said, this reflection was what made him think she was not real. The way the surface appeared, according to his explanation, seemed metallic rather than natural. He further told his grandmother that the person examined his stomach. After that, she asked him to try to place bodily waste onto a piece of adhesive material. He said he was unable to do so. The story then shifted back outdoors. He described being led to a bush and instructed to hide there. He said he was told he would be safe if he remained quiet. This detail matched the location where he had been found by searchers. He had been discovered inside dense vegetation, partially concealed from view. Concerned by the nature of the story, Kathy contacted the child's parents. She questioned whether he had been exposed to unusual television programs or conversations. The parents told her that he had spoken in similar terms when he was first found, but they had not encouraged discussion. They expressed a preference for letting him forget the experience, rather than repeatedly revisiting it. They asked her not to question him further about the incident. According to family accounts, they believed continued attention might reinforce distressing memories. Kathy remained unsettled by the story. She associated it with an earlier experience of her own in the same region. Several weeks before her grandson disappeared, she had been camping nearby with a friend. She later reported waking up on the ground with a small puncture wound on the back of her neck. She did not recall how it occurred. The event caused lingering discomfort and concern. No formal medical or law enforcement documentation of her incident appears in public records. It remained a personal account shared within the family. Beyond these statements, no physical evidence was reported that connected the child's story to any identifiable location or structure. No cave fitting the description was documented in the area near Fowler's campground. Search teams at the time had focused on open terrain and river corridors rather than underground spaces. Official records related to the 2011 disappearance remain limited to brief incident summaries. They list the time, place, responding agencies, and outcome. The additional details exist only through family recollections and private conversations. The event remains defined in public archives by its practical elements: a short disappearance, a coordinated search, and a recovery near the point of origin. The interval between those moments is recorded only through indirect personal testimony without supplementary documentation. Distances, measured in reports and coordinates. Public records concerning disappearances in the Mount Shasta region rely heavily on location data. Each incident begins with a fixed reference point, a trailhead, campsite, parking area, or roadside turnout. From that point, authorities calculate probable movement using maps, elevation charts, and known travel routes. These measurements form the foundation of most official case files. In the September 2011 Fowler's campground case, the initial reference point was the family's campsite near the McCloud River. Sheriff's logs list this location as the last confirmed sighting. From there, search coordinators estimated how far a 3-year-old child could travel within short time intervals. The surrounding terrain, marked by thick brush and shallow ravines, reduced visibility and slowed movement. These features were documented in search summaries. Early radio transmissions recorded by responders show that teams focused first on river access points. Water sources are routinely prioritized because children and disoriented adults often move towards sound and open space. Crews walked parallel routes along the riverbank, while others checked footpaths leading toward the campground exit. County incident reports indicate that grid searches were established within 90 minutes of notification. Each grid was defined using compass bearings and natural landmarks. Searchers marked completed areas with digital tracking devices and handwritten notes. These markings were later transferred to centralized maps. Similar procedures appear in other publicly documented cases near Mount Shasta. In July 2014, Matthew Weaver disappeared in Lassen Volcanic National Park, southeast of the mountain. Park records show that his last confirmed position was a parking area near Kings Creek. From that location, rangers created a projected travel zone based on trail networks and slope gradients. Search teams in Weaver's case used satellite imagery and GPS overlays to identify cliffs and unstable volcanic formations. These features were labeled as high-risk zones. Helicopter crews focused on these sections during early search phases. Ground teams followed slower, linear patterns along marked routes. When Weaver's remains were located in 2016, officials noted that the discovery site lay outside the initial primary grid. Updated maps from later phases show how the search area expanded gradually over time. These expansions were driven by recalculated distance estimates rather than by new eyewitness information. Siskiyou County search records from the past 2 decades show consistent use of distance calculations. Probable travel ranges are adjusted based on age, experience, and physical condition. Children are assigned smaller initial radii. Experienced hikers receive larger projected zones. These values are entered into planning software and updated daily. In many cases, recovered individuals are found within the first projected zone. Reports from Lake Siskiyou and Hedge Creek Falls document several short-term juvenile disappearances, where children were located within half a mile of their last known point. These recoveries are noted with simple coordinate references and elapsed time totals. Some files include discrepancies between estimated and actual distances. In a 2012 rescue near Clear Creek, a hiker was found less than 200 meters from a search route that had already been walked. The report attributes this to dense vegetation and uneven sightlines. The explanation is presented as a logistical note rather than an anomaly. Modern search operations rely on digital mapping platforms that store every team's path. Jeep's units record movement in real time. After an operation ends, these paths are merged into a master map showing coverage density. Areas with low overlap are identified for future review. Earlier cases, especially those from the 1990s, relied on paper charts. Handwritten grids and pencil markings appear in archived folders. Comparisons between older and newer files show improved accuracy but similar structural organization. Both focus on distance, elevation, and route probability. Weather data is integrated into these measurements. Snow, depth, rainfall, and wind speed are entered into daily situation reports. These figures influence how far a person is expected to travel and how visible they may be. In winter cases, search radii are often reduced due to slower movement. The 2011 Fowler's Campground file contains several references to terrain constraints. Reports note fallen logs, brush clusters, and shallow depressions. These features were mapped during the search and revisited after the recovery. The child's position was recorded within one of these mapped pockets. No additional geographic anomalies were documented. The recovery site matched the projected movement range calculated earlier that evening. For record-keeping purposes, the case was categorized as a short-distance wander. Across the region, most disappearance files follow this structure. Coordinates establish boundaries. Distances define priorities. Maps serve as the primary narrative. Personal experiences and private recollections are excluded from these technical records. These measurements become the lasting public record. They appear in summaries released to media, in internal reviews, and in annual reports. Over time, they replace memory with geometry. The Mount Shasta region's disappearance cases, when viewed through these documents, are organized around space rather than story. What remains visible are lines, grids, and numerical estimates. Everything else exists outside the official archive. Voices preserved in written form. In missing person investigations connected to Mount Shasta and nearby public lands, witness statements are collected as part of standard procedure. These statements are gathered by sheriff's deputies, Forest Service officers, and park rangers during the early stages of a response. Each account is recorded in written form or summarized from audio recordings. The documents are labeled with the time, date, and location of the interview. Interview guidelines used by the Siskiyou County Sheriff's Office and the U.S. Forest Service emphasize observable facts. Witnesses are asked to describe what they saw, heard, or did without offering interpretations. Questions focus on clothing, direction of travel, equipment, and timing. Officers are trained to avoid language that might influence responses. Statements are rarely transcribed word for word. Instead, the interviewer produces a condensed narrative using standardized report language. Informal phrasing, emotional expressions, and unrelated details are removed. The final document is structured to match departmental reporting formats. When family members are interviewed, the focus is placed on recent communication, travel plans, and medical history. These interviews are conducted in private settings whenever possible. Notes are reviewed for accuracy before being added to the case file. Personal reflections are usually excluded from the official record. In cases involving hikers and climbers, fellow visitors often provide statements. These witnesses are asked about trail conditions, weather changes, and crowd density. They may also be asked to estimate when they last saw the missing person and in what direction the individual was traveling. These details are used to refine search areas. People who discover abandoned property are also interviewed. If a backpack, jacket, or phone is found, the individual who located it is asked to describe its position and condition. Photographs are taken and coordinates are recorded. The witness's description becomes part of the evidence log. All collected statements are assigned reference numbers and stored with incident reports. They are cross-checked against radio transcripts and search logs. If contradictions appear, follow-up interviews may be conducted. These clarifications are documented in supplemental reports. Access to full interview records is restricted. Privacy laws limit the release of personal information. Public statements issued to the media usually contain only summarized versions of witness accounts. Full reports are typically available only through formal records requests, and sensitive portions may be redacted. Interview procedures are reviewed regularly as part of agency training. Officers receive instruction on neutral questioning techniques and documentation standards. These guidelines are intended to maintain consistency across cases and across jurisdictions. In prolonged searches, witness statements are sometimes revisited. Investigators may recontact individuals to verify details or clarify timelines. Any additional information is appended to the original file rather than replacing earlier records. Recovered individuals may also provide statements. These interviews are focused on navigation decisions, physical condition, and points of confusion. Medical staff may contribute notes regarding dehydration, injury, or exhaustion. These materials are stored alongside law enforcement reports. Over time, the accumulation of these documents forms the narrative framework of a case. Each statement represents a fixed entry in the archive. Later reviews rely on these records rather than on personal recollection. Internal reviews conducted by county and federal agencies show that most case files contain similar interview structures. Whether a disappearance lasts hours or weeks, the format remains largely unchanged. This consistency allows agencies to compare operations and improve procedures. The purpose of these written accounts is administrative rather than interpretive. They establish what information was available at specific moments and how it was used. They are not intended to explore meaning or motivation. As years pass, witness statements often become the only detailed human record of an event. Family conversations, private reflections, and informal observations are not preserved. What remains is a set of formal summaries organized by date and reference number. Within Mount Shasta area disappearance files, these documents function as stable points of record. They fix moments in time and limit later revision. Through this process, individual voices are converted into standardized text that becomes part of the permanent archive. Weather logs and terrain assessments. Every organized search in the Mount Shasta region begins with a review of environmental conditions. Before teams are deployed, coordinators assemble recent weather bulletins, terrain maps, and seasonal reports. These materials are treated as operational tools rather than background information. They define where personnel can move, how long they can remain in the field, and which areas present unacceptable risk. Weather data is obtained from multiple sources. The National Weather Service provides regional forecasts and warnings. Automated stations located at different elevations supply temperature, wind, and precipitation readings. In alpine zones, additional observations may come from climbing ranges or research facilities. These data points are compared to account for rapid changes in mountain conditions. Mount Shasta rises more than 14,000 feet above sea level. Because of this elevation range, weather can vary sharply within short distances. Valley floors may experience clear skies and mild temperatures, while higher slopes encounter snow, ice, and high winds. Search planners review layered forecasts that reflect these variations. Daily weather summaries are attached to incident command documents. Each summary includes observation times, forecast updates, and advisories. When severe conditions are expected, these warnings are distributed during briefings and repeated over radio channels. Teams are instructed to adjust routes and schedules accordingly. Wind patterns are monitored continuously. Sustained winds and sudden gusts affect helicopter operations, body temperature, and sound transmission. Search logs frequently record wind direction and average speed. In exposed areas, wind chill calculations are included to assess hypothermia risk. Precipitation records are incorporated into operational planning. Rain increases the likelihood of swollen streams and muddy trails. Snowfall reduces visibility and obscures tracks. Ice formation creates slipping hazards. These effects are documented in daily situation reports and reflected in safety guidelines. Snowpack measurements play a central role in winter and spring searches. Federal and state agencies maintain long-term snow monitoring stations in Northern California. Depth, density, and layering information is used to estimate travel speed and avalanche risk. These figures are referenced in planning documents. Visibility is assessed through cloud cover reports, fog density readings, and aerial observations. In forested areas, low clouds can reduce sightlines, even during daylight. When visibility falls below minimum standards, aerial searches are suspended and ground teams are spaced more closely. Temperature logs influence both operational and medical planning. Cold conditions increase the risk of frostbite and hypothermia. Heat raises the likelihood of dehydration and exhaustion. Daily briefings include temperature projections and recommended adjustments to clothing and hydration. Alongside weather data, terrain assessments provide a detailed description of the search environment. These assessments are prepared using topographic maps, satellite imagery, and field observations. They outline slope angles, vegetation types, surface materials, and natural obstacles. Slope analysis is a primary component. Digital elevation models are used to calculate gradients. Steep areas are classified as high-risk zones. Access to these zones requires specialized equipment and trained personnel. Reports specify which sections require ropes, crampons, or technical climbing skills. Vegetation density is evaluated using aerial imagery and ground surveys. Dense brush can conceal individuals and slow movement. Areas are described using standardized terms, such as heavy undergrowth, mixed forest, or open terrain. These descriptions influence search spacing and coverage methods. Surface stability is also recorded. The Mount Shasta region contains volcanic ash, pumice, and loose rock fields. These materials can shift unexpectedly, especially when wet. Field teams note sections with unstable footing and report them to command staff. Rock formations are mapped separately. Lava flows, talus slopes, and cliff faces appear throughout the area. These features are marked on operational maps and flagged in safety briefings. Geological surveys may be consulted to assess collapse or erosion risks. Water features are incorporated into terrain assessments. Rivers, creeks, snowmelt channels, and marshes are identified. Flow rates and depths are measured when feasible. These measurements guide decisions about crossings and downstream search priorities. Seasonal changes are reflected in environmental documentation. Spring brings increased runoff and saturated soils. Summer introduces wildfire hazards and dust. Autumn may produce early snowfall at higher elevations. Winter creates deep snowpack and limited access. Each season requires modified reporting formats. During winter operations, avalanche forecasts are reviewed daily. These forecasts classify risk based on snowfall, wind loading, and temperature gradients. Search commanders use these classifications to determine safe travel zones. High-risk slopes may be excluded from search plans. In summer, fire weather conditions are monitored. Air quality reports, fuel moisture levels, and lightning forecasts are included in briefings. Smoke reduces visibility and affects respiratory health. Active fires may lead to temporary closures of search areas. Terrain assessments are updated continuously. As teams move through the field, they report changes in conditions. Landslides, fallen trees, and newly formed channels are logged. These updates are shared through radio communication and written supplements. Aerial reconnaissance contributes to environmental records. Helicopters and drones capture images of snowfields, debris zones, and inaccessible slopes. These images are geo-referenced and time-stamped. They are archived alongside maps and reports. Ground-based surveys complement aerial data. Team leaders document trail erosion, animal paths, and human-made structures. These details help distinguish between established routes and accidental deviations. Notes are added to master maps. Search planners use environmental records to estimate movement rates. Reference tables adjust walking speed based on slope, vegetation, and surface type. These estimates are entered into planning software that generates probable travel zones. Weather and terrain variables are applied as modifiers. Heavy rain, deep snow, or extreme heat reduces projected range. Clear conditions and open ground increase it. These calculations guide the allocation of personnel and equipment. Medical advisors review environmental data during briefings. Cold exposure, altitude effects, and heat stress risks are assessed. Recommendations regarding shift length and rest periods are based on these analyses. Environmental records also influence equipment selection. Snowshoes, flotation devices, ropes, and protective clothing are deployed according to conditions. Supply inventories are adjusted daily. These changes are documented in logistics logs. Communication systems are affected by terrain. Mountain ridges and valleys interfere with radio signals. Signal coverage maps are created to identify dead zones. Temporary repeaters may be installed. These adaptations are recorded in technical reports. Historical weather data is sometimes consulted for context. Long-term averages help planners recognize unusual conditions. For example, heavy spring snowfall or prolonged drought may be referenced in situational summaries. Post-operation reviews include environmental evaluations. These sections analyze how weather and terrain affected search effectiveness. Delays, hazards, and access limitations are attributed to documented conditions. Recommendations are based on these findings. Public summaries often mention environmental factors in brief terms. Statements such as poor weather, steep terrain, or limited visibility appear frequently. These phrases represent condensed versions of extensive internal reports. In unresolved cases, environmental records remain in archived files. They are reviewed if new searches are initiated. Changes in terrain, such as receding snowfields or lowered water levels, may reopen previously inaccessible areas. Long-term monitoring continues independently of individual incidents. Snow surveys, river gauges, and climate stations operate year-round. Their data feeds into future search planning and training programs. Training exercises emphasize environmental interpretation, personnel practice, reading weather charts, slope maps, and satellite imagery. Certification programs require demonstrated competence in these skills. Federal and county agencies coordinate reporting standards. Shared templates ensure compatibility across jurisdictions. When multiple agencies respond together, their environmental records follow similar formats. The Mount Shasta region presents complex environmental layers. Volcanic geology, glacial remnants, and dense forests overlap. Each layer introduces variables that must be documented. Environmental reports attempt to capture these interactions systematically. These records are also used for public safety education. Agencies issue seasonal advisories based on observed patterns. These notices reflect accumulated environmental data. Despite technological advances, direct observation remains essential. Field notes record changes in temperature, footing, and wind exposure. These qualitative details supplement quantitative measurements. Over time, combined records form a comprehensive environmental archive. They show how natural conditions shape human movement and search operations. They document recurring access limitations and hazard zones. In disappearance investigations near Mount Shasta, these archives guide every major decision. Routes, schedules, and safety limits are derived from environmental analysis. Systematic searching depends on this information. Environmental documentation provides continuity. Future planners consult past records to anticipate challenges. Each new operation adds to the existing archive. Within official files, weather logs and terrain assessments occupy entire sections. They appear alongside statements and timelines. Together, they define the physical setting of each incident. These records do not interpret events. They describe conditions through temperatures, slopes, winds, and surfaces. They outline the boundaries within which disappearances occur. In the Mount Shasta region, those boundaries are shaped by elevation, climate, and geology. Environmental documentation translates these features into operational language. Through this process, agencies manage risk and coordinate response, equipment, logistics, and resource deployment. Before search teams are sent into the field, a parallel system of preparation is set in motion. While investigators focus on location data and environmental conditions, logistics officers begin organizing personnel, equipment, and supply chains. This administrative structure determines the scale and duration of every operation. Without this coordination, sustained searching in the Mount Shasta region would not be possible. Personnel assignments are organized through an incident command system. Each responder is registered upon arrival and given a specific role. These roles may include ground searcher, technical climber, medical support, communications operator, or logistics assistant. Names, certifications, and shift times are recorded in staffing logs. Search teams are usually formed based on experience level and physical capability. Less experienced volunteers are assigned to low-risk zones or paired with trained leaders. Technical areas require personnel with specialized credentials in mountaineering, rope rescue, or avalanche safety. qualification records are verified before deployment. Vehicles are catalogued at staging areas. These may include sheriff's patrol units, forest service trucks, ambulances, snowmobiles, and all-terrain vehicles. Each vehicle is logged with fuel status, maintenance condition, and assigned driver. Movement routes are planned to avoid congestion on narrow mountain roads. Helicopter resources are coordinated through state and federal agencies. When available, aircraft are used for aerial searches, equipment transport, and medical evacuation. Flight schedules depend on weather, visibility, and crew availability. Aviation logs document takeoff times, flight paths, and landing zones. Ground transport is adapted to seasonal conditions. In winter, snowmobiles and tracked vehicles are prioritized. In summer, four-wheel drive trucks and utility vehicles are more common. Access limitations are recorded in daily logistics reports. Supply management is handled through centralized distribution points. Food, water, medical kits, and technical gear are stored and issued from these locations. Inventory lists are updated daily. Shortages and replacements are noted in procurement logs. Personal protective equipment is mandatory. Helmets, gloves, weather-resistant clothing, and navigation tools are issued based on assignment. Equipment checklists are completed before teams leave staging areas. Any damaged or missing items are reported immediately. Medical supplies are maintained separately from general equipment. First aid kits, stretchers, oxygen units, and hypothermia prevention materials are stocked in designated vehicles. Medical officers track usage and restocking needs. These records are integrated into after-action reports. Communication equipment is distributed according to coverage plans. Radios, satellite phones, and GPS units are assigned to team leaders. Spare batteries and charging systems are maintained at base camps. Communication logs record equipment failures and signal interruptions. Temporary shelters are established during extended operations. These may include tents, mobile trailers, or repurposed buildings. Shelters provide rest areas, briefing space, and medical stations. Setup and maintenance activities are documented by logistics staff. Food services are organized for multi-day searches. Meals are prepared on site or delivered by contracted providers. Dietary needs and shift schedules are considered. Supply orders and delivery times are recorded to prevent shortages. Fuel management is critical in remote areas. Gasoline, diesel, and aviation fuel are stored in approved containers. Usage rates are monitored. Refueling schedules are coordinated to avoid operational delays. Environmental regulations govern storage and disposal procedures. Rope systems and climbing equipment are inspected daily. Harnesses, anchors, and belay devices are checked for wear. Inspection results are logged. Any equipment failing inspection is removed from service. In snow conditions, avalanche gear is distributed to relevant teams. Transceivers, probes, and shovels are issued and tested. Training status is verified before use. Deployment records indicate which personnel carried this equipment. Logistics officers maintain situation boards showing resource status. These boards list active teams, available vehicles, and supply levels. Updates are made during each operational period. The boards provide a visual summary for command staff. Interagency coordination affects resource deployment. When multiple organizations respond, equipment sharing agreements may be activated. These agreements outline responsibility for maintenance, replacement, and liability. Documentation is included in administrative files. Mutual aid requests are issued when local resources are insufficient. Neighboring counties, state agencies, or federal units may provide personnel and equipment. Request forms specify quantities and duration. Fulfillment is tracked through regional coordination centers. Rest and rotation schedules are part of logistical planning. Personnel are assigned maximum shift lengths. Mandatory rest periods are enforced. Compliance is monitored to reduce fatigue-related accidents. These schedules are preserved in staffing records. Waste management is addressed during prolonged operations. Portable sanitation units, trash disposal systems, and hazardous waste containers are installed as needed. Service schedules are recorded. Environmental compliance reports include these measures. Information technology systems support logistics tracking. Software platforms record inventory, personnel status, and equipment assignments. These systems generate reports used in operational reviews. Data backups are maintained to preserve records. After operations conclude, equipment is cleaned, inspected, and returned to storage. Missing or damaged items are documented. Replacement requests are processed through procurement channels. These activities form part of demobilization reports. Financial records are linked to logistics operations. Fuel costs, equipment rentals, food services, and overtime payments are tracked. Accounting summaries are prepared for reimbursement and audit purposes. These summaries are reviewed by administrative officers. Training exercises simulate logistical challenges. Agencies conduct drills involving equipment, deployment, and resource management. Performance is evaluated against established standards. Findings are used to update procedures. Public reports rarely include logistical detail. Media statements typically reference multiple agencies and extensive resources without specification. Internal documents provide the detailed account. Archived case files show that logistics sections are often larger than investigative narratives. These sections contain inventories, schedules, and transport plans. They demonstrate how operational capacity is built and maintained. In the Mount Shasta region, terrain and weather make logistics especially complex. Long distances, limited roads, and variable conditions require flexible planning. Equipment caches and mobile units are positioned to address these constraints. Over time, logistical records accumulate into institutional knowledge. Planners review past files to anticipate supply needs and access issues. Each operation contributes data to this archive. Resource deployment shapes the scope of every search. The number of personnel, availability of aircraft, and volume of supplies determine how widely and how long an area can be covered. These factors are reflected in planning documents. Logistics reports form a continuous narrative of movement and support. They show when teams were active, where resources were placed, and how operations were sustained. Time gaps, delays, and operational pauses. Search operations in the Mount Shasta region are rarely continuous. Even when a disappearance is reported quickly and resources are available, periods of interruption occur. These pauses are documented in incident logs and daily summaries. They reflect environmental limits, safety requirements, and administrative constraints, rather than investigative decisions. The first type of delay often appears during the initial response. After a report is received, agencies must verify location information, assemble personnel, and establish command structures. Dispatch records show that this process can take from several minutes to more than an hour, depending on weather, staffing levels, and road access. In mountainous terrain, access delays are common. Narrow roads, seasonal closures, and fallen debris may restrict vehicle movement. When routes are blocked, equipment and personnel must be rerouted or transported on foot. These adjustments are noted in logistics and operations reports. Weather is a primary cause of operational pauses. High winds, heavy snowfall, electrical storms, and low cloud ceilings frequently interrupt aerial searches. Aviation logs indicate when flights are suspended and resumed. Ground teams are sometimes recalled when conditions reach unsafe thresholds. During winter operations, storms may halt searching for extended periods. Snow accumulation reduces visibility and increases avalanche risk. In such cases, command staff issue temporary suspension orders. These orders are recorded with timestamps and supporting weather data. Nightfall introduces another set of limitations. Although search teams are trained to operate after dark, reduced visibility slows coverage and increases injury risk. In some cases, nighttime operations are scaled back to essential patrols. Full grid searches may resume at daylight. Fatigue management also contributes to pauses. Personnel are subject to maximum shift limits. When large portions of a team reach mandatory rest periods simultaneously, coverage is reduced. Staffing logs document these rotation cycles. Medical concerns can trigger temporary withdrawals. If multiple responders show signs of hypothermia, heat exhaustion, or altitude sickness, supervisors may suspend field activity. Medical incident reports are attached to operational records in these situations. Equipment failures sometimes cause delays. Radio outages, vehicle breakdowns, and damaged climbing gear are reported through maintenance channels. Replacement or repair may require several hours. During this time, certain areas remain unsearched. Communication interruptions are also documented. Mountain terrain can block radio signals. When contact is lost with a team, operations may pause until communication is restored. These incidents are logged as safety measures. Administrative pauses occur during operational transitions. At the end of each planning period, command, toggle staff, conduct briefings, and update search strategies. During these meetings, active searching may be temporarily reduced. These intervals are recorded in planning documents. Extended searches often include scheduled stand-down periods. These are planned pauses designed to reorganize resources, evaluate progress, and revise objectives. Stand-down orders specify duration and conditions for resumption. In some cases, searches are suspended entirely and later reopened. Suspension notices cite factors such as extreme weather, exhausted resources, or lack of new information. Reopening occurs when conditions improve or new leads emerge. Both actions are formally documented. Public summaries frequently mention these pauses in general terms. Statements may refer to weather delays or safety concerns. Internal files contain more detailed explanations, including specific measurements and incident numbers. Review of Siskiyou County and federal search records shows that most operations include multiple interruptions. These are treated as normal components of fieldwork rather than failures. Reports emphasize compliance with safety standards. Time gaps are also visible in mapping data. Jeeps tracks often show clusters of movement separated by inactive periods. Analysts use these patterns to reconstruct operational flow. In unresolved cases, long pauses may extend for months or years. These gaps reflect the absence of new information rather than active searching. Case files indicate when reviews are scheduled and when no action is taken. During prolonged suspensions, agencies maintain periodic contact with families. These communications are logged, but are not part of operational reports. They are handled through separate administrative channels. Training materials address the management of delays. Search coordinators are instructed to anticipate interruptions and prepare contingency plans. Scenario exercises include simulated weather shutdowns and equipment losses. After-action reports analyze the impact of pauses. Sections are devoted to assessing how delays affected coverage and response time. Recommendations are based on these evaluations. Over time, these records show that search operations are shaped by cycles of activity and inactivity. Continuous movement is rare. Instead, progress occurs in stages separated by enforced or necessary stops. In the Mount Shasta region, high elevation and variable climate make such cycles more pronounced. Sudden storms and rapid temperature changes create frequent operational limits. These factors are consistently reflected in reports. Within archived files, pauses appear as sequences of blank intervals, restart notices, and revised schedules. When examined together, these segments show how searches unfold unevenly across days and weeks. Rather than forming a single uninterrupted effort, each operation is preserved as a series of discrete working periods linked by written explanations and formal approvals. Records, archives, and long-term case files. When an active search operation ends in the Mount Shasta region, its documentation does not conclude. Instead, reports, maps, and administrative records are transferred into long-term storage systems. These archives preserve operational details for future reference, legal compliance, and institutional review. Each case is assigned an identification number that links all related materials. Initial records are assembled during the demobilization phase. Field notes, radio transcripts, Jeeps data, medical reports, and logistical summaries are collected from team leaders. These materials are reviewed for completeness and standardized formatting. Missing documents are requested before files are finalized. County sheriff's offices maintain primary custody of most case files. Federal agencies, including the U.S. Forest Service and National Park Service, retain parallel copies for incidents occurring on their lands. Memoranda of understanding outline how records are shared and stored between jurisdictions. Paper documents are scanned and converted into digital formats. Original copies are placed in secure storage facilities. Digital files are indexed using case numbers, dates, and location identifiers. Access is restricted through permission systems to protect personal information. Mapping data forms a central component of archived files. Jeeps tracks, aerial imagery, and annotated maps are stored in geographic information systems. These records allow future reviewers to reconstruct search coverage and movement patterns. Version histories document when maps were modified. Audio and communication records are preserved separately. Radio transmissions, emergency calls, and briefing recordings are archived with timestamps. These materials provide chronological context for operational decisions. Retention periods are defined by state and federal regulations. Photographic evidence is catalogued with metadata. Images of terrain, equipment, and recovered property are labeled with location coordinates and photographer identification. These records are used to verify field observations and support later analysis. Medical and personnel records are stored under additional confidentiality rules. Health assessments, injury reports, and exposure logs are segregated from general case files. Access is limited to authorized administrative staff. Case summaries are prepared after archival assembly. These summaries outline timelines, resources used, and outcomes. They are written in standardized language and approved by supervisory officers. Summaries are often the only portion of a file released publicly. Retention schedules govern how long records are maintained. In California, many law enforcement and emergency management files are preserved for decades. Unresolved cases are typically retained indefinitely. Closed cases may be reviewed periodically for compliance. Digital backups are created to prevent data loss. Archives are mirrored on secure servers and external storage systems. Regular audits verify file integrity. Disaster recovery plans outline procedures for restoring damaged or corrupted records. Requests for information are processed through public records offices. Journalists, researchers, and family members may submit formal inquiries. Each request is reviewed for legal exemptions. Sensitive content is redacted before release. Long-term files are sometimes revisited. New technology, updated mapping tools, or newly available data may prompt reanalysis. In such cases, archived materials are retrieved and supplemented with additional reports. Interagency training programs use archived cases as instructional material. Selected files are anonymized and incorporated into coursework. These examples illustrate procedural standards and operational challenges. Internal reviews examine archived records to identify trends. Agencies analyze response times, resource usage, and outcome patterns. Findings are summarized in annual reports and policy updates. Funding and reimbursement processes also rely on archived documentation. Expense reports, overtime records, and equipment usage logs are reviewed during audits. Accurate archives support financial accountability. As personnel retire or transfer, institutional knowledge shifts to written records. Archives become the primary source of historical continuity. Policies and procedures are traced through these files. Technological changes have altered archival practices. Early cases relied on physical folders and microfilm. Modern systems use cloud storage and encrypted databases. Conversion projects continue to digitize older records. Legal proceedings may require retrieval of archived materials. Courts request certified copies of reports and transcripts. Chain of custody documentation ensures authenticity. In some instances, families request periodic reviews of long-term files. Agencies respond by summarizing archived information. These communications are documented and added to case histories. Over time, individual case files accumulate supplementary material. Media reports, public statements, and correspondence may be attached. These additions provide context without altering original records. Within Mount Shasta area archives, each disappearance becomes part of a larger administrative system. Files are arranged chronologically and geographically. Cross-references link related incidents. The long-term case file represents the final institutional form of a disappearance. It contains operational details, administrative decisions, and preserved data. Once archived, the file remains available for review, reference, and accountability. Review panels and procedural evaluations. After a disappearance case in the Mount Shasta region is closed or suspended, formal examination of the operation may continue for months or years. This examination does not take place in the field. It occurs in offices, conference rooms, and administrative centers, where reports, logs, and archived materials are reviewed in structured settings. These reviews are conducted by internal committees, supervisory officers, and, in some circumstances, external oversight bodies. The primary purpose of these evaluations is procedural. Agencies seek to determine whether established policies were followed, whether resources were used appropriately, and whether safety standards were maintained. These reviews are not criminal investigations. They are administrative processes designed to assess organizational performance. In most cases, review panels are assembled within weeks of demobilization. Membership typically includes senior sheriff's officers, search and rescue coordinators, representatives from cooperating agencies, and administrative staff. When federal lands are involved, personnel from the U.S. Forest Service or National Park Service may participate. Meetings are scheduled in advance and documented through internal memoranda. Agendas outline which sections of the case file will be examined. These usually include response timelines, staffing records, environmental assessments, logistics reports, and communication logs. Before meetings take place, panel members receive copies of relevant documents. These materials may consist of hundreds of pages of reports, maps, and digital data. Members are expected to review them independently before group discussion begins. The first phase of evaluation focuses on initial response. Panels examine when the report was received, how quickly dispatchers acted, and how long it took to assemble resources. Timestamps from emergency call systems and radio transcripts are compared to operational guidelines. If delays occurred, they are documented. Panels determine whether these delays were caused by external factors, such as weather or road closures, or by internal issues, such as staffing shortages or communication errors. Findings are recorded without attributing personal fault unless misconduct is identified. The second phase addresses command structure. Reviewers analyze whether an incident command system was established properly and whether roles were clearly defined. Organizational charts and staffing logs are examined to confirm that leadership positions were filled by qualified personnel. Attention is also given to information flow. Panels review how updates were communicated between teams, command staff, and cooperating agencies. Radio recordings and briefing notes are analyzed for clarity and consistency. Instances of conflicting instructions are documented. Search strategy forms a central component of evaluation. Planners' decisions regarding grid placement, priority zones, and resource allocation are reviewed against environmental and situational data. Panels assess whether strategies reflected available information at the time. Mapping records are displayed during meetings. Digital overlays show where teams traveled and which areas received coverage. Reviewers compare these maps to projected movement zones. Gaps and overlaps are identified and discussed. When individuals are found in previously searched areas, panels examine the timing and methods used. They consider factors such as vegetation density, lighting conditions, and search spacing. These discussions are recorded in evaluation summaries. Equipment and logistics receive separate review sessions. Inventory logs and maintenance records are examined. Panels confirm whether appropriate gear was available and whether any shortages affected operations. Equipment failures are analyzed for preventability. Medical and safety procedures are reviewed in detail. Incident reports involving injuries, exposure, or near misses are scrutinized. Panels evaluate compliance with safety protocols and determine whether additional training is required. Fatigue management is another standard topic. Shift schedules and rest logs are examined. Reviewers assess whether personnel were rotated according to policy and whether excessive workloads occurred. These findings influence future staffing guidelines. Communication infrastructure is evaluated for reliability. Signal coverage maps and outage reports are reviewed. Panels determine whether temporary repeaters or alternate systems were deployed effectively. Recommendations for improvement are documented. Administrative coordination between agencies is also examined. Memoranda of understanding and mutual aid agreements are reviewed. Panels assess whether resource sharing occurred as planned and whether jurisdictional boundaries created obstacles. Financial documentation forms part of the evaluation process. Expense reports, overtime records, and procurement files are audited. Reviewers verify that expenditures were authorized and properly recorded. Irregularities are referred to internal audit units. Public communication is evaluated through press releases, briefing transcripts, and media inquiries. Panels review whether information was accurate, timely, and consistent. Misstatements or unclear messaging are noted. Family liaison procedures are also reviewed. Panels examine records of communication with relatives, including notification timelines and follow-up contacts. These reviews focus on compliance with agency policies rather than emotional impact. When external agencies participate in evaluations, additional standards apply. State or federal auditors may review files for compliance with grant requirements or emergency management regulations. These reviews are documented in separate reports. In some cases, independent review boards are convened. These boards may include emergency management specialists, legal advisors, and academic consultants. Their role is to provide objective assessments based on professional standards. Independent boards typically operate under formal charters. These documents define scope, authority, and reporting requirements. Findings are submitted to agency leadership and may be released publicly in summarized form. Review panels produce written evaluation reports. These reports contain sections addressing each operational component. Language is standardized and neutral. Opinions are framed as observations, supported by documentation. Recommendations are included at the end of most reports. These may involve changes to training programs, equipment procurement, staffing models, or communication protocols. Implementation timelines are often attached. Once finalized, evaluation reports are circulated internally. Command staff review them and develop response plans. These plans outline how recommendations will be addressed. Progress is tracked through follow-up audits. Some recommendations result in immediate policy changes. Others are incorporated into long-term planning documents. Training curricula are updated based on recurring findings from multiple evaluations. Archived evaluations form part of institutional memory. Agencies maintain databases of past reviews. These records are consulted when new incidents occur. Patterns identified over time influence strategic planning. For example, repeated findings related to radio coverage gaps may lead to infrastructure investments. Frequent fatigue-related issues may result in revised shift limits. Equipment shortages may prompt budget adjustments. Evaluation processes are governed by confidentiality rules. Internal deliberations are usually protected from public disclosure. Only final summaries or redacted versions are released through formal channels. Legal considerations influence evaluation practices. Agencies consult legal counsel to ensure that reports do not compromise ongoing litigation or violate privacy laws. Sensitive material may be segregated from general files. When lawsuits or claims arise, evaluation records may be subpoenaed. Courts review these documents to assess compliance with professional standards. Chain of custody documentation ensures authenticity. Not all cases receive full panel reviews. Short-duration incidents with uncomplicated outcomes may undergo abbreviated evaluations. These consist of supervisor sign-offs and brief checklists. Extended or complex cases are more likely to receive comprehensive reviews. Multi-day operations, fatalities, or high-profile incidents typically trigger expanded evaluations involving multiple agencies. Evaluation schedules vary. Some reviews occur immediately after demobilization. Others are delayed until all records are compiled. In long-term missing person cases, reviews may be conducted periodically. Training academies incorporate evaluation findings into instruction. Recruits and volunteers study anonymized case reviews. These materials illustrate practical application of policy. Evaluation meetings follow formal procedures. Minutes are recorded, attendance is logged, action items are assigned. These records become part of administrative archives. Disagreements sometimes arise during reviews. Differing interpretations of data may lead to extended discussion. Final reports reflect consensus positions rather than individual viewpoints. Panels rely heavily on documentation. Personal recollections are secondary to written records. When discrepancies appear, official logs take precedence. Technological tools increasingly support evaluations. Data analytics software is used to examine response times and coverage patterns. Visualization tools display operational flow. Despite technological support, evaluation remains a manual process. Senior staff read reports, compare timelines, and verify consistency. Human judgment remains central. Over decades, evaluation practices have become more standardized. Templates, checklists, and scoring systems are widely used. This standardization supports comparison across cases. In the Mount Shasta region, multi-agency cooperation has influenced evaluation frameworks. Shared procedures allow consistent assessment, regardless of lead agency. Evaluation outcomes rarely attract public attention. Media coverage focuses on search operations and outcomes rather than internal reviews. Most evaluation work remains invisible. Within agencies, however, these processes carry significant weight. Promotion decisions, budget allocations, and policy revisions are influenced by evaluation findings. Evaluation reports also affect interagency relationships. Consistent compliance strengthens partnerships. Repeated deficiencies may lead to revised agreements. In unresolved cases, evaluations emphasize procedural completeness. Panels document that available resources were used and that reasonable strategies were applied. These records support long-term case management. As years pass, evaluation reports become historical documents. They reflect evolving standards and technologies. Comparing older and newer reviews reveals changes in organizational priorities. The review panel system functions as a mechanism of continuity. It links individual incidents to institutional learning. Each evaluation adds to an accumulated body of practice. In disappearance cases near Mount Shasta, these evaluations shape how future operations are conducted. Decisions about equipment, staffing, and training are grounded in documented assessments. The existence of these panels demonstrates that searching does not end when field operations stop. Administrative examination continues. Files are reviewed, procedures refined, and standards reinforced. Through this process, agencies transform operational experience into structured knowledge. That knowledge becomes embedded in policy, training, and planning. Within official records, evaluation reports stand apart from field logs and witness statements. They represent reflective documentation rather than real-time reporting. They do not describe terrain, weather, or movement. They describe compliance, coordination, and decision-making. In this way, review panels provide a secondary layer of record. They do not replace original documents. They interpret them through administrative frameworks. Over time, this layer becomes essential to institutional governance. It ensures that each disappearance contributes to procedural development. The Mount Shasta region's complex search environment makes these evaluations particularly detailed. Terrain, climate, and access challenges require constant reassessment. Review panels provide the structure for that reassessment. They formalize lessons without personalizing outcomes. Through scheduled meetings, written reports, and archived findings, procedural evaluations become part of the enduring record of disappearance response. Media coverage and public information channels. When a disappearance occurs in the Mount Shasta region, public communication begins almost immediately. Sheriff's offices, park authorities, and emergency management agencies activate information protocols designed to coordinate messaging. These protocols determine who may speak to the media, what details may be released, and how frequently updates are provided. The first public statements usually come from dispatch centers or public information officers. These statements confirm that a search is underway and provide basic details such as location, age, and last known activity. They avoid speculation and emphasize that information is preliminary. Time and date stamps accompany each release. Local newspapers and radio stations are often the first outlets to report these incidents. Reporters rely on press briefings, official emails, and monitored radio traffic. Early coverage typically mirrors agency language closely, using direct quotations from authorities. Television stations in Northern California and Southern Oregon follow similar practices. Field reporters attend press briefings when possible. When access is limited, they rely on written statements. Broadcast segments usually include maps, file photographs, and footage of search staging areas. As searches continue, agencies establish regular update schedules. Daily or twice-daily briefings are common in extended operations. These briefings summarize search progress, weather conditions, and resource deployment. They also address public safety concerns, such as restricted areas. Press releases are archived on agency websites and social media accounts. These digital platforms have become central to public communication. Updates are posted simultaneously to ensure consistency. Corrections are issued when errors are identified. Social media plays a significant role in modern cases. Sheriff's departments and park services use official accounts to distribute photographs, contact numbers, and volunteer guidelines. Posts are time-stamped and monitored. Comments are often moderated to prevent misinformation. Public tip lines are promoted through media channels. Press releases include phone numbers and email addresses for information submission. Incoming tips are logged and forwarded to investigators. Media outlets periodically remind audiences of these contact points. During active searches, journalists may request on-site access. Agencies establish designated media areas to prevent interference with operations. Rules governing filming, drone use, and interviews are enforced. Violations are documented. Information officers serve as intermediaries between command staff and reporters. They attend operational briefings and translate technical details into public language. Draft statements are reviewed for accuracy before release. In high-profile cases, national media organizations may become involved. This increases demand for updates and interviews. Agencies may expand communication teams to manage volume. Additional briefing sessions are sometimes scheduled. Public messaging emphasizes safety and cooperation. Statements often request that hikers avoid certain trails or report suspicious items. These requests are coordinated with operational planning to avoid disrupting searches. Family members may choose to speak publicly. When they do, agencies coordinate with them to avoid conflicting information. Media training and counseling services may be offered. These interactions are recorded in administrative files. Some families decline public engagement. In such cases, agencies respect privacy requests. Media outlets are informed of restrictions. Press coverage focuses on official sources. As time passes without resolution, coverage patterns change. Initial daily updates may become weekly or monthly references. Articles shift from reporting active searches to summarizing case status. Archived releases are cited. Unresolved cases are often revisited on anniversaries. Newspapers and online platforms publish retrospective pieces. These articles compile earlier reports, photographs, and official statements. New information is highlighted if available. Investigative journalists may submit public records requests. These requests seek access to reports, maps, and communications. Agencies review them under state disclosure laws. Released documents are usually redacted. Some media organizations produce long-form features. These pieces analyze timelines, terrain, and response efforts. They rely on archived press releases and interviews. Agencies may review factual sections before publication. Television documentary programs occasionally feature regional disappearances. Participation by agencies is voluntary. When cooperation occurs, conditions are established regarding editing and representation. Misinformation management is part of public communication strategy. Agencies monitor rumors circulating online. When false claims gain traction, corrective statements are issued. These responses are logged. In recent years, online forums and independent websites have become secondary information sources. Agencies do not endorse these platforms. They focus instead on maintaining accurate official channels. Press credentials are verified during major operations. Only accredited journalists are allowed in restricted zones. Credential lists are maintained by public information officers. Media monitoring services track coverage volume and tone. These analyses help agencies assess public response. Findings may influence future communication practices. Language used in official statements is standardized. Terms such as active search, suspended operation, and ongoing investigation carry specific administrative meanings. These terms are used consistently. Photographs released to media are selected carefully. Images showing staging areas, helicopters, or search teams are common. Images of recovered individuals or sensitive sites are rarely published. Video footage is reviewed before release. This includes aerial recordings and body camera clips. Legal counsel may be consulted. Approval processes are documented. Public information officers maintain communication logs. These logs record inquiries, responses, and release times. They provide accountability and reference for later review. Coordination with neighboring jurisdictions affects messaging. When searches cross boundaries, joint statements are issued. Lead agencies are identified in each release. In some cases, reward announcements are publicized. These notices are prepared in cooperation with families and sponsors. Financial details and conditions are specified. Agencies verify legitimacy before distribution. Community meetings may be organized. Officials present updates and answer questions. Summaries of these meetings are published online. Attendance lists are maintained. Crisis communication plans guide these activities. These plans are reviewed during training and updated after major incidents. Media management is treated as an operational component. Over time, media records become part of the historical archive. Articles, broadcasts, and online posts are preserved through digital databases. Researchers and agencies reference them. These records influence public memory. For many cases, news coverage becomes the primary narrative. Official files may be consulted less frequently than published stories. Agencies recognize this influence. Communication policies emphasize clarity and restraint. Avoiding speculation protects both investigations and public trust. Within Mount Shasta area disappearance cases, media channels serve as the main interface between operations and the public. They translate administrative processes into accessible information. Press releases, interviews, and broadcasts form a parallel record alongside internal archives. Together, they document how each case is presented and understood. Public information management does not determine outcomes, it shapes awareness. Through controlled messaging and documented procedures, agencies maintain consistent communication throughout each case. Families, advocacy, and ongoing inquiries. After active field searches in the Mount Shasta region are reduced or suspended, responsibility for continued attention often shifts toward relatives and close associates. Official involvement moves into a long-term administrative phase, while families begin navigating systems of records access, communication, and private inquiry. Initial notification of this transition is usually delivered through formal meetings or written correspondence. Investigators outline which areas have been searched, which resources have been exhausted, and what procedural options remain. Summaries of these communications are placed in case correspondence files. Relatives frequently request copies of public reports and search summaries. These requests are handled through designated records offices. Materials released may include timelines, maps, and official statements. Personal identifiers and sensitive information are removed in accordance with disclosure regulations. Some families organize independent search efforts. These activities are generally limited to accessible public areas and rely on previously published search boundaries. Local authorities are often informed in advance to prevent safety conflicts. These efforts are not formally supervised and are rarely incorporated into official records. Private search activities are documented only when permits, safety coordination, or land management approvals are required. In most cases, they remain informal. Agencies may offer general guidance on safety and reporting procedures. Advocacy organizations sometimes assist families during this phase. These groups focus on maintaining public awareness and facilitating information sharing. Support may include poster distribution, media coordination, and online campaign management. Participation is voluntary and initiated by relatives. Digital platforms play a central role. Families often create websites, social media accounts, and mailing lists dedicated to the case. These platforms are used to share photographs, timelines, and requests for information. Content is generated independently of law enforcement systems. Information submitted through these channels may be forwarded to authorities. When received, it is logged as supplemental material. Investigators evaluate submissions according to standard evidentiary guidelines. Only verifiable details are added to official files. Some families retain private investigators. These professionals review public records, conduct interviews, and analyze available data. Findings may be shared with law enforcement. Each submission is reviewed separately and incorporated only if it contains new factual information. Legal counsel may be consulted to advise on records access, privacy rights, and communication boundaries. Correspondence with attorneys is stored in administrative sections of case files. These records reflect procedural interactions rather than investigative findings. Support networks provide additional assistance. Regional and national groups connect families with others facing similar circumstances. Meetings and online forums facilitate information exchange. Participation is voluntary and not recorded in official archives. Public awareness efforts often intensify on anniversary dates. Media outlets may publish retrospective articles. Families sometimes release statements or organize events. Agencies may respond with brief status confirmations. Periodic meetings with investigators may continue. These meetings review any new submissions and clarify case status. Notes from these interactions are added to correspondence records. In some situations, cold case units assume responsibility. Transfers are documented through formal memoranda. Families are notified in writing. Review schedules and contact procedures are outlined at that time. Public tip lines remain active in many long-term cases. Agencies continue to receive occasional submissions. Each is logged and assessed. Most do not result in operational changes. Advocacy activities may extend into policy initiatives. Families sometimes support legislation related to search funding, tracking technologies, or public safety education. These efforts operate independently of individual investigations. Personal record keeping is common. Many relatives maintain files containing correspondence, news articles, and private notes. These materials are not part of official archives but serve as informal case histories. Levels of engagement vary over time. Some families remain highly involved for decades. Others gradually reduce public activity. Agencies document contact frequency and respect stated preferences. Institutional procedures define limits on long-term engagement. Once investigative options are exhausted, only periodic file reviews continue. Families are informed of these boundaries through formal communication. Designated liaison officers manage most interactions. This structure ensures consistency and documentation. Contact logs record dates, topics, and outcomes of communication. Counseling and support services are sometimes offered. Referrals are documented in administrative notes. Participation is voluntary and confidential. In unresolved cases, correspondence and advocacy records become part of the long-term file. Letters, meeting summaries, and public statements are preserved. These materials reflect sustained interest rather than investigative progress. Within Mount Shasta area disappearance files, this phase represents a shift from field activity to administrative maintenance and private initiative. Search efforts are replaced by documentation and ongoing communication. Families and advocacy groups operate within legal and procedural frameworks. Their work supplements official processes without replacing them. Through continued inquiry and record keeping, cases remain visible within institutional systems. Even without new evidence, files continue to grow through correspondence and scheduled reviews. Reopened searches and renewed field operations. Reopened search efforts in the Mount Shasta region occur after a case has entered long-term status and new circumstances emerge. These circumstances may involve newly discovered physical evidence, updated witness information, environmental changes, or advances in search technology. Decisions to resume field activity are made through formal administrative processes rather than informal requests. Requests for renewed searches are reviewed by supervisory officers and agency administrators. These reviews examine whether new information meets established criteria for operational deployment. Documentation supporting the request is attached to case files and evaluated for reliability and relevance. Environmental conditions are reassessed before approval is granted. Changes in snowpack, vegetation growth, water levels, or erosion may expose areas that were previously inaccessible. Updated terrain surveys and weather forecasts are included in reopening proposals. Funding availability influences reopening decisions. Extended field operations require budget authorization for personnel, equipment, and transportation. Financial officers review projected costs. Approval records are added to administrative sections of case files. Interagency coordination is re-established when searches resume. Agencies that participated in earlier operations are notified. Mutual aid agreements are reviewed and, if necessary, renewed. Contact lists and communication protocols are updated. Before deployment, archived materials are re-examined. Maps, GPS tracks, witness statements, and environmental records from earlier searches are reviewed. Planners compare past coverage with new objectives. Areas of incomplete or limited access are identified. New search strategies are developed using updated information. Planning documents outline target zones, resource requirements, and safety measures. These documents are approved by command staff before field activity begins. Technological developments often influence renewed operations. Improved GPS systems, high-resolution satellite imagery, and drone platforms may be introduced. Equipment inventories are updated to reflect these tools. Training sessions may be conducted before deployment. Ground teams are reassembled through established registration procedures. Personnel qualifications are verified. Staffing rosters are prepared in advance. Shift schedules are designed to balance efficiency and fatigue management. Aerial resources are reassigned when conditions permit. Flight plans are coordinated with aviation authorities. Landing zones and observation routes are updated using current terrain data. Aviation logs document renewed operations. Search boundaries are redefined using revised probability models. Planners incorporate new evidence and environmental changes. These boundaries are marked on digital and paper maps. Distribution copies are issued to team leaders. Public communication protocols are reactivated. Press releases announce renewed efforts and provide limited details. Information officers coordinate messaging to avoid interference. Updates follow scheduled briefing formats. Family members are notified before field operations resume. Meetings or written notices outline objectives and timelines. Records of these communications are placed in correspondence files. Safety reviews are conducted prior to deployment. Risk assessments evaluate terrain hazards, weather patterns, and equipment status. Mitigation measures are documented. Approval signatures are required before teams enter the field. During renewed searches, reporting procedures mirror those used in initial operations. Daily situation reports, radio logs, and GPS data are collected. These records are integrated with existing archives. Search coverage is documented carefully. Teams record movement paths and observation points. These data are merged into master maps. Comparisons are made with earlier coverage records. Recovered evidence is processed under standard protocols. Locations are documented, photographs are taken, and chain of custody forms are completed. Evidence is transferred to appropriate storage facilities. If no findings occur, renewed operations are concluded through formal demobilization. Closure notices cite completed objectives and resource limitations. These notices are added to case files. Some cases undergo multiple reopening cycles. Each cycle generates a separate set of planning and operational documents. These cycles are distinguished by date and authorization reference numbers. Public summaries following renewed searches are usually brief. Statements indicate that additional areas were examined and that no new conclusions are available. Detailed findings remain internal. Training programs use reopened cases as instructional examples. These cases illustrate how evolving conditions affect search planning. Materials are anonymized before inclusion in coursework. Long-term records show that reopened searches are less common than initial operations. They are typically limited in scope and duration. Authorization requires clear justification. Environmental changes play a significant role in reopening decisions. Retreating snowfields, reduced water levels, and forest thinning may reveal new access routes. These developments are monitored through ongoing surveys. Technological improvements also drive renewed efforts. Enhanced imaging and data analysis tools allow re-examination of earlier search areas. These tools are incorporated into updated procedures. Legal considerations influence reopening policies. Agencies consult counsel to ensure compliance with liability and privacy regulations. Authorization documents reflect these reviews. Community interest sometimes contributes to reopening requests. Public campaigns or media attention may prompt administrative review. Decisions remain based on documented criteria rather than public pressure. Reopened searches require renewed logistical support. Supply chains, transportation routes, and communication systems are reactivated. Logistics reports document these preparations. After-action reviews follow renewed operations. These reviews assess whether new methods or information improved coverage. Findings are added to evaluation archives. Over time, reopened searches contribute to procedural refinement. Agencies adjust criteria and planning models based on outcomes. These adjustments are reflected in updated manuals. In Mount Shasta area cases, renewed operations demonstrate how long-term management remains active, even after initial searches end. Files remain adaptable rather than static. Administrative systems ensure continuity. Authorization records, operational logs, and evaluation reports connect each reopening to the original case history. Through these processes, reopened searches become structured extensions of earlier efforts. They are governed by formal review, updated planning, and controlled deployment. These operations do not alter historical records. They add new layers of documentation. Each renewed effort becomes part of the permanent archive. Within official files, reopened searches are marked by distinct planning cycles and operational phases. They reflect changing conditions rather than changed interpretations. Closure, uncertainty, and administrative endpoints. Long after search teams have left the field and command centers have been dismantled, disappearance cases in the Mount Shasta region continue to exist within administrative systems. Their status is defined not by answers, but by documentation. Files move from active management to long-term maintenance through formal procedures that emphasize record preservation rather than resolution. Case closure begins with an internal review. Supervisory officers examine whether all reasonable search measures have been completed. They review operational logs, environmental assessments, witness statements, and resource records. This review establishes whether additional field activity is justified under existing policies. If no further action is approved, the case enters long-term status. This designation is recorded in departmental databases. It signals that active searching has ended, but that records remain open for potential future review. The designation does not imply a conclusion about outcome. In some instances, remains are located after extended periods. When this occurs, investigative and medical procedures are initiated. Identification is confirmed through forensic methods. Death certificates and coroner reports are prepared. These documents are added to the case file, and the classification is updated. When no physical evidence is recovered, files remain unresolved. These cases are typically labeled as missing, presumed deceased, or inactive, depending on jurisdictional terminology. Definitions for these terms are established by state and federal guidelines. Presumed death determinations are legal processes. Families may petition courts for declarations after specified time periods. Agencies provide documentation to support these petitions. Court decisions are recorded separately from law enforcement files. Administrative closure involves multiple notifications. Families receive written summaries explaining current status and available options. Partner agencies are informed through internal bulletins. Records offices update digital and physical archives. Closed or inactive files are transferred to designated storage systems. Digital records are moved to restricted access servers. Paper files are boxed, labeled, and stored in secure facilities. Retention schedules are applied. Retention policies vary by agency. Unresolved disappearance cases are often preserved indefinitely. Resolved cases may be stored for several decades. Disposal of records requires formal authorization and documentation. Periodic audits review closed and inactive files. These audits verify record integrity and compliance with retention rules. Missing or damaged materials are reported and, if possible, restored from backups. Some cases are reclassified over time. Advances in forensic technology may allow identification of remains discovered years later. When matches occur, agencies reopen files administratively to update records. These updates are logged and archived. Environmental changes may also affect long-term status. Droughts, landslides, or retreating snowfields can reveal previously inaccessible areas. Agencies monitor such developments through routine surveys. Relevant changes are noted in case monitoring systems. Technological databases facilitate long-term management. Missing person registries, unidentified remains databases, and regional information systems are cross-referenced. Automated alerts notify agencies of potential matches. Correspondence continues in closed cases. Families may submit periodic inquiries. Agencies respond with standardized status letters. Copies are placed in correspondence sections of the file. Cold case units maintain lists of unresolved disappearances. These lists are reviewed during scheduled intervals. Selection criteria determine which cases receive renewed attention. Reviews are documented in evaluation report. Financial and administrative accountability extends beyond closure. Expense records and reimbursement files remain subject to audit. These materials are preserved alongside operational documents. Training programs use closed cases as reference material. Anonymized files illustrate procedural outcomes. These examples demonstrate how cases progress from active searching to administrative maintenance. Public access to closed files is limited. Requests are processed under records laws. Sensitive information remains protected. Released materials are usually summaries rather than complete files. Media coverage declines after administrative closure. Reports shift from active updates to historical references. Archived articles become the primary public record of many cases. Institutional memory relies heavily on documentation. Personnel changes over time reduce reliance on personal recollection. Files become the central source of continuity. Uncertainty remains a defining feature of unresolved cases. Administrative systems acknowledge this through open-ended classifications. No final narrative is imposed within official records. Agencies avoid speculative language in closure documents. Reports emphasize actions taken and resources used. Outcomes are described in neutral terms. Interpretive commentary is excluded. In some cases, memorials or markers are placed by families or communities. These activities occur independently of administrative processes. They are not included in official files unless land management permits are involved. Legal frameworks shape closure practices. Privacy statutes, liability considerations, and disclosure rules influence record handling. Compliance is monitored through internal audits. Interagency databases preserve links between related cases. Geographic proximity, shared resources, and overlapping timelines are cross-referenced. These systems support long-term analysis. Over decades, closed files accumulate in institutional repositories. They form a regional archive of disappearance response. Patterns and procedural trends emerge through aggregated review. These archives influence policy development. Recurring challenges identified in past cases inform revised guidelines. Closure documentation contributes to this process. The administrative endpoint of a case represents a transition rather than a conclusion. Operational activity ends, but documentation continues. Records remain available for future reassessment. Within Mount Shasta area files, closure is marked by final summaries, status codes, and storage entries. These elements define how a case is preserved. The absence of definitive answers is reflected in these records. They maintain factual boundaries and procedural limits. What occurred beyond documented actions remains outside institutional scope. Through standardized endpoints, agencies manage uncertainty without resolving it. Files remain open to revision while closed to routine activity. In this way, disappearance cases persist within administrative systems. They exist as organized collections of reports, maps, and correspondence. Their presence reflects both effort and limitation. The final stage of each file is not silence, but maintenance. Through periodic review, controlled access, and careful preservation, cases remain part of the operational record. Within these structures, closure becomes a form of stewardship. Agencies do not declare endings. They preserve what is known and leave space for what may still emerge. This administrative balance defines how uncertainty is managed. It allows cases to remain documented without being finalized. In the Mount Shasta region, as in many remote landscapes, this approach shapes the long-term record. Disappearances are neither forgotten nor fully resolved. They are retained within systems designed to hold incomplete histories. Each case continues to exist, not as a story with a conclusion, but as a maintained record within ongoing institutional memory. If you found this video interesting, like and subscribe for more. New videos are posted regularly. Thanks for watching.